Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I'm talking about my personal rules for reading. So this tag was created by MJ at Reading This Life. She very kindly tagged me in her original video for it. And it's a weaponisation of a video by Michael K. Vaughan where Michael talked about his own rules of reading. So there are 4 questions, but MJ is encouraging people to add their own question at the end as well. So I thought of one of those and I will be doing that. Okay, so the first question is, do you strive to read every day? If yes, do you do anything different or special to make time within your day? So the answer to this is yes, but I wouldn't use the term strive. So I definitely 100% read every day, but there's no effort. There's no effort involved in me reading. My routine is such that I just naturally have time to read. So I tend to read when I'm exercising in the morning. If I'm commuting into London to go to the office, I will read on the train. And if not, I will read, I'll find some time to read in the evening or during my lunch break. It's just what I do when I have downtime, basically. So yeah, I definitely read every day, but no effort involved. Second question, do you always stay within your favourite genres or do you experiment with reading different genres and subgenres? So I definitely have a tendency to stay within my favourite genres, those really being crime, horror, and to an extent thrillers. So I read a lot within those genres, but I do make a bit of an effort to read other things as well, and particularly to read the kinds of things that I haven't read in the past. So I've been reading a lot of romance recently. I've been reading more classics recently. So yes and no to that question, I guess. I do definitely have my favourite genres, but I do try to read outside of them as well. Okay, question 3 is, do you DNF, which stands for did not finish? If yes, what was the last book you DNF'd and the reasons why? If the answer is no, then what drives you to finish the book? So yes, I do DNF. In fact, I put up a video on Sunday that was about DNFing. So I think it's important that people are prepared to not finish books if those books aren't working for them. I can't remember I think the last book I DNF'd, I was trying to remember, was probably Savages by Shirley Conran, which I was going to read during Garb August. I read about the first 90 pages of it or so, and I just wasn't enjoying it. And it was one of those books that I was reading purely for enjoyment, rather than for any other reason. So I didn't feel there was any problem with me DNFing it. I just wasn't enjoying it, so I stopped reading it. And in cases where I don't DNF a book, it's usually either because I've got so far through the book that it doesn't feel like that much more effort to finish it, or because it's a book that I really want to read because I feel like I will get something out of it more than just enjoyment. So those really are the reasons why I wouldn't DNF a book. And then the final question from MJ is, do you like to read challenging books? If yes, what draws you to them? If not, why do you avoid them? So typically I haven't tended to read challenging books. And for me, challenging, so I definitely read books with like darker subject matter. I don't have any problem with that at all. But I tend not to read books that I think are going to be difficult to read in terms of, having archaic or complex language or, getting very deeply into their themes and things like that. So, I talk about it on the channel a lot. I love popular fiction. I love trash fiction. That's the kind of book I tend to gravitate towards. I have definitely read challenging books in the past. And at the moment, I'm challenging myself to read more challenging books. But typically, it's not really something I do. I tend to go for easier kind of books because I read mostly for entertainment. I read, to enjoy myself, and I find easier to read books more enjoyable than difficult to read books. So those are the 4 questions from MJ. I'm going to add my fifth question to it, a question of my own, as invited by MJ in her original video. So my question is, do you read books by authors whose views you disagree with? So I think this is something that, feels like quite a current thing at the moment. In the past, people didn't, I don't think, really think about the views that authors held. and authors probably weren't celebrities in quite the same way as they are today. You know, we didn't have social media and things like that, so people probably just weren't aware of the views of the authors that they were reading. Whereas nowadays we tend to be very aware of it. And, you know, people will quite deliberately stop reading books by an author if they disagree with the views of those authors. This is something I've talked about on the channel before. I don't do that. So I am quite happy to read books by authors whose views I, you know, completely disagree with. Where I think I draw the line, but maybe not always, is when those views really spill out onto the page. And it's very, you know, the book is very obviously, you know, racist or misogynistic or whatever. But, you know, even then, for books that are older, that come from, you know, less enlightened times, I do sometimes still read books like that. And I don't feel any, like there's any disconnect between me reading those books and my own, you know, personal views, which are very liberal. I think as long as you recognise that the views in a book are wrong, it's fine to still read that book and fine to still enjoy that book, for, you know, for the elements of the book that, you know, that are enjoyable, for the, you know, the thrilling scenes or the plot or the characters or whatever. So yeah, I personally don't have a problem with reading books by authors whose views I disagree with. So that's the 4 questions from MJ and the 1 question from me gone through. I'm going to tag 3 people in this. So I'm going to tag Heather the Librarian, Marilyn Meyer Mendoza, and Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. So really interested to hear what you have to say. I don't think any of you have done this tag yet. I might be wrong. But yeah, if you haven't and you fancy doing it, it'll be fantastic to see what you say. So that's it from me for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know your own personal answers to those questions if you don't have a channel of your own. If you do have a channel and you haven't been tagged in the video either by me or by anybody else, then consider yourself tagged. But yeah, as always, hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.